Order number 1, administration of oath.
Order number 2, communication from the chair.
Honorable Senators, order. Honorable Senators, I welcome you to this special sittings of the Senate. As leaders, when duty calls, we answer. Nevertheless, I regret to interrupt this period of festivities when you get to spend with family, friends, and constituents. Honorable Senators, on the request of the Senate Majority Leader and with the support of the requested number of senators, via letter reference number Senate SEN/SML/COR, dated 16th December 2021, I appointed today, Tuesday, 21st December 2021, and tomorrow, Wednesday, 22nd December 2021, as a day for special sittings of the Senate, via Gazette Notice number 13791 of 17th December 2021. Take your seat. In the Gazette notice, I indicated that the business to be transacted at the special sittings shall be A, the budget policy statements for financial year 2022-2023, B, the report of the Standing Committee on Labor and Social Welfare on the status of the new Dandora Stadium in Nairobi City County, C, the Cotton Industry Development Bill, Senate Bills number 55 of 2021, D, the County Oversight and Accountability Bill, Senate Bills number 17 of 2021. E, the County Government's Grants Bill, Senate Bills number 35 of 2021. F, the Kenyan Sign Language Bill, Senate Bills number 5 of 2021. G, the Street Vendors Protection and Livelihood Bills, Senate Bills number 7, 2021. H, the County Hall of Fame Bill, Senate Bills number 9 of 2021. I, the Heritage and Museum Bills, Senate Bills number 22 of 2021. J, the County Government's Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 38 of 2021. K, the Law of Succession Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 15 of 2021. I, the Lifestyle Audit Bill, Senate Bills number 36 of 2021. M, the Kenya Citizenship and Immigration Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 33 of 2021. N, the Intergovernmental Relations Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 37 of 2021, and Q, any other business that may be transacted to Senate by the National Assembly. In accordance with the Standing Order number 35, the business specified in the Gazette Notice and as outlined in the order papers for the 2 days shall be the only business before the Senate during the special sittings, following which the Senate shall stand adjourned until Tuesday, 8 February 2021 at 2 p.m. in accordance with the Senate calendar. I thank you.
Order number 3, messages.
Okay, Honorable Senators, I wish to report to the Senate that pursuant to Standing Order number 41.3 and 5, I received the following message from the Speaker of the National Assembly regarding the passage by the Assembly of the County Government Grants Bill, Senate Bill number 35 of 2021. The message, which is dated Friday, 3rd December 2021, was received on 7th December 2021 while the Senate was on recess and was transmitted to all senators on 8th December 2021 pursuant to Standing Order number 41.5. Pursuant to the standing orders, I now report the message, quote, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order number 41.1 and 142 of the National Assembly standing orders, I hereby convey the following message from the National Assembly. Whereas the County Government's Grants Bill, Senate Bill number 35 of 2021, was passed by the Senate on Wednesday, 15th September 2021 with amendments and referred to the National Assembly for consideration. And whereas the National Assembly passed the said bill on Thursday, 2nd December 2021 with further amendments to the title clause 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, first schedule and second schedule as attacked here with. Now, therefore, in accordance with the provisions of Article 110 of the Constitution And standing orders number 411 and 144C of the National Assembly standing order, I hereby convey the said decision of the National Assembly to the Senate. Honorable Senators, in addition to the forwarding the message and the schedule of amendments to all senators pursuant to standing order number 416C, I referred the message to the Committee on Finance and Budget for consideration and reporting. Honorable Senators, the committee has concluded its consideration of the National Assembly amendments to the said bill and has compiled a report which is listed in today's order paper for tabling. Further, pursuant to standing orders number 151-1, a motion seeking the approval of the Senate to consider National Assembly amendments to the bill has been listed in order number 9 in today's order paper. If the Senate resolves to consider the said amendments, the amendments will be listed in the afternoon's order paper. However, if the motion in order number 9 is defeated, the bill will be referred to a mediation committee pursuant to standing order number 159-4B and Article 113 of the Constitution. I thank you.
Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Leader, majority. Or Chair Finance.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the Senate today, 21st December 2021. Report of the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget on the 2022 Budget Policy Statement and the Medium-Term Debt Management Strategy. And number 2, report of the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget on the consideration of amendments passed by the National Assembly to the County Government's Grants Bill, Senate Bill number 35 of 2021. I beg to table, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion, that the amendments by the National Assembly to the County Government's Grants Bill, Senate Bill number 35 of 2021, be now considered. Mr. Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion, that the Senate adopts the report of the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget on 2022 Budget Policy Statement and the Medium-Term Debt Management Strategy laid on the table of the Senate on Tuesday, 21st, 2021, and pursuant to Section 25(7) of the Public Finance Management Act and Standing Order 187 of the Senate approves the 2022 Budget Policy Statement. I beg to give the notice.
Next order.
Order number 7, statements. Order number 8, Cotton Industry Development Bill, Senate Bills number 55 of 2021, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to provide for the production, processing, marketing, and distribution of cotton in Kenya and its products, establish the Cotton Industry Development Board, provide a framework for cotton farming, ensure value addition to cotton and its related products, and for connected purposes.
Next order. Next order.
Order number 9, motion.
Yes, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the following motion, that the amendments by the National Assembly to the County Government's Grants Bill, Senate Bill number 35 of 2021 be considered. Mr. Speaker, you all recall that we did quite a considerable amount of work when coming up with this bill. Mr. Speaker, the County Government's Bill, Senate Bill number 35 of 2021, was sponsored by the Senate Standing Committee on Finance and Budget and was introduced to the Senate on 6th July 2021. The introduction of the bill was prompted by the judgment by the High Court, Petition number 252 of 2016. Mr. Speaker, the bill seeks to provide a framework for the transfer of additional allocations under Article 202.2 of the Constitution from the national government's share of revenue and from development partners to the county government. After approval of the bill by the Senate, Mr. Speaker, the bill was transmitted to the National Assembly for consideration and concurrence. Mr. Speaker, the High Court held inter alia that conditional grants cannot be included in the Division of Revenue and therefore Division of Revenue Act. The court was of the position that, as set out in Article 218 of the Constitution, only matters of division of nationally raised revenue between the national government and the county governments are to be included in the Division of Revenue Bill. Mr. Speaker, the fact that the court indicated conditional grants cannot be included in the Division of Revenue Bill and not precluded in the development, introduction and enactment of legislative instruments to provide for the manner in which conditional grants will be distributed to the counties. Mr. Speaker, upon receipt of the judgment, the committee had to engineer a framework and a mechanism through which conditional grants would be dispersed to the county governments without violating the principles of the public finance management. A legislative framework similar to the County Allocation of Revenue Act must be put in place to allow disbursement of funds to the counties. The bill seeks to seek out the information that was previously contained in the second and third schedule of the County Allocation of Revenue Bill. It is important to note that for the financial year, Mr. Speaker, financial year 2021, as in the current financial year, counties have not received any disbursement under the conditional grants since there is no framework or mechanisms to do so, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on 8th December 2021, the Standing Committee on Finance received communication from your office communicating the passage of the bill with amendments from the National Assembly. As requested via your communication, Mr. Speaker, the committee expeditiously considered the amendments on 14th December 2021. Mr. Speaker, on consideration of the National Assembly amendment to the bill, the committee observed that, 1, the effect of such amendments defeats the principal object of the bill, which is to deal with the question of disbursement of conditional grants to the county governments from the national government and development partners. Number 2, Mr. Speaker, by changing the long title and short title of the bill to refer to the additional allocation under Article 202.2 of the Constitution would leave out conditional allocations from the proceedings of loans and grants from development partners, which form part of the transfers to the county government, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the duration of the first and second schedule to the bill would amount to complete erosion of the substrum of the bill and its objects. By including the issue of financing of transferred functions in the provisions of the bill, introduces an issue outside the scope of the bill, which would be properly dealt with through a separate registration. Mr. Speaker, from the foregoing, the committee recommends that the Senate rejects all the amendments passed by the National Assembly to the County Government's Grants Bill, Senate Bill number 35 of 2021. Mr. Speaker, like we have said, this is a bill that we thought through. We met a number of stakeholders, key stakeholders, including COG, including CLA, including COB. We even met the governor of Central Bank, we met the National Treasury, we met the AG, and we all thought through the bill that we brought into this House, and the House was kind enough to pass the bill. So, Mr. Speaker, without much ado, I request that the Senate, I request that the Senate rejects all the amendments and requests Senator Falia to second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to second. And Mr. Speaker, this bill used to be part of the Kara bill, which was a mandate of this House, Mr. Speaker. And there was a court judgment that decided that the grants and conditional grants should not be part of Kara. And as a result of that, Senate was forced to do a grants bill, Mr. Speaker. And because, Mr. Speaker, there was, and then after deliberation, after, speaking to the stakeholders, after all the other work that this House has done, I understand there were even rumors that our lower house wanted to make this wanted to say that this is a money bill. If this is money bill, then Kara was money bill all along. Because the same things that we used to pass in the Kara are the same ones that, Mr. Speaker, that now are going into the grants bill, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, this is a bill that takes care of conditional grants, donor grants, any other grants that is not part of any other financing to the county that is not part of a share of revenue between the national government and the county government. Mr. Speaker, if during the division of revenue, it cannot go through without the Senate consent, Mr. Speaker, then surely this grant bill is solely the mandate of this House to initiate, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, as my chair was alluding, there was a lot of consultation with stakeholders, including even Treasury, that would have told us if this was money bill or otherwise. So, Mr. Speaker, and the amendments that were brought to Mr. Speaker, by then our sister House, Mr. Speaker, had nothing. I mean, it was really, changing the substance of this bill completely, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, as a result of that, I wish to second, and Mr. Speaker, I wish to urge this House to reject in totality the amendment that were brought by our sister House. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, other senators, I now propose the question, which is that the amendments by the National Assembly to the County Government Grants Bill, Senate Bills number 35 of 2021, be now considered. I don't see any interest. I now put the question, which is that the amendments by the National Assembly to the County Government Grants Bill, Senate Bills number 35 of 2021, be now considered as a vote. As men are of that opinion, say aye. Aye. As men are of the contrary, say nay. Nay. The nays have it. Thank you.
Order number 10. Order number 10, motion.
Chair Finance.
The BPS. Yes. Yeah? Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the following motion that the Senate adopts the report of the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget on the 22nd 2022 budget policy statement and medium-term debt management strategy laid on the table of the Senate on 21st December 2021 and pursuant to Section 25(7) of the Public Finance Management Act and Standing Order 187 of the Senate approves the 2021 budget policy statement. Mr. Speaker, at least this one will take a bit of time because as the clerk was coming in and Pogishio, they reminded me that if it was in the earlier dispensation, I would be the Minister of Finance. So you give me the latitude to bore the House for some time. But having said that, Mr. Speaker, the 2022 policy statement, or what we call the BPS, and the medium-term debt management strategy were tabled on Wednesday, 1st December 2021, pursuant to Standing Order 184 of the Senate Standing Orders. The 2022 BPS and the MTDMS were committed to the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget for consideration. The committee was required to deliberate and table a report containing the recommendation on the budget policy statement within 12 days, and which, Mr. Speaker, we did. Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 185, the Senate Standing Committee invited Cabinet Secretary of National Treasury and Planning, Commission of Revenue Allocation, CRA, the Council of Governors, and further, Mr. Speaker, the committee invited Senate standing committees which oversight different departments to consider respective sector proposals as provided in the BPS and forwarded the observation and recommendation. Other interested parties like the Institute of Certified Public Accountants, ISPAC, International Budget Partnership, IBPP, Kenya chapter, and the Institute of Social Accountability, TISA, appeared before the committee and submitted a memorandum. Mr. Speaker, the committee made significant observations on the BPS proposal for the financial year 2022 and the medium-term debt management strategies and identified broad policy issues with great impact on counties and proposals on revenue allocation. The committee also considered all the views submitted by the stakeholders in making the recommendations contained in its report. Mr. Speaker, it is significant to mention that the purpose of the approval of this report on the BPS is to communicate the Senate's position on the preparation of all subsequent budget documents for the next financial year. These documents include the Division of Revenue Bill 2022, the County Allocation of Revenue Bill 2022. It is important, Mr. Speaker, to note that Section 25 of the Public Finance Management Act 2012 stipulates that the resolutions of Parliament on the BPS must inform the preparation of the annual estimate, Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Section 25(2) of the PFM Act 2012, the National Treasury submitted to Parliament the 2022 BPS and MTDMS on Tuesday, 30th November 2021, on account of revised budget calendar for year 2022-2023. The revision is informed by the forthcoming general elections slotted for August 2022. The necessary legislative budget instrument must be put in place before Parliament proceeds on final recess. Mr. Speaker, the theme of the BPS 2022 is accelerating economic recovery for improved livelihood. The policies in the BPS have also been anchored in the medium-term plan 3 of the Vision 2030 as prioritized in the Big Four agenda and the third economic stimulus program. Mr. Speaker, the BPS is the most critical document in the budget proposal process because it is the basis upon which division of revenue, county allocation of division of revenue bill, county allocation of revenue bill, and the budget estimates for the subsequent year and over the medium term are prepared. Mr. Speaker, the BPS indicates that the total budget is expected to grow from Kenya shillings 3.3 trillion in the current financial year 2021-2022 to Kenya shillings 3.309 trillion in the financial year 2022-2023, representing a growth of 9.2%. Mr. Speaker, on revenue allocation, the allocation to the county level of government is proposed to remain at Kenya shillings 370 billion. That is 0% growth. The allocation of the Consolidated Funds Services, the CFS, is proposed to have the largest growth of 20.3%. It's important, Mr. Speaker, to note that this is accounting to over 26% of the total budget and is slowly crowding out other expenditures. The national government is expected to have a growth of 6.8%. Mr. Speaker, on economic growth, it is indicated that the economy grew by 5.4% in the first half of 2021, boosted by recovery in sectors such as education, transport, manufacturing, accommodation, and restaurants, or the hospitality. However, this growth is partially attributed to the base effect that is negative growth in 2020. The National Treasury, Mr. Speaker, projects that Kenya's economy will grow by 6% in 2021 and 5.8% in 2022, strengthened by the ongoing implementation of strategic priorities under the Big Four agenda and initiatives under the economic recovery strategy. Mr. Speaker, ordinary revenue projection for the year 2022-2023 is Kenya shillings 2.141 trillion. This is our based on the planned reforms in tax administration and revenue collection. The projected ordinary revenue for the ongoing financial year is Kenya shillings 1.8 trillion. This is 18.94 growth rate. Based on the projected ordinary revenue growth, the National Treasury is targeting to reduce the fiscal deficit, including GLADs, from 8.2% in the financial year 2021-2022 to 6%, Mr. Speaker, in the financial year 2022-2023 and 3.2% in the medium term. However, it is noteworthy that without concrete policies aimed at enhancing revenue collection, the projected fiscal deficit over the medium term may not be achieved. And Mr. Speaker, that was an observation of most of the stakeholders that we met. In the overall, the inflation, Mr. Speaker, has remained modest within the target range, increasing from 5.3% in November 2020 to 5.8% in November 2021. Fuel inflation was an upward trajectory in 2020 and stood at 11.1% in March 2021. It declined to 3.8% in November 2021 as a result of lower international crude oil prices and partly due to the Energy Petroleum Regulatory Authority fuel subsidy. Food inflation was at a rate of 9.9%, just short of 10%, in November 2021, owing to increase in the prices of various food commodities. Mr. Speaker, regarding the interest rates, and access to credit, the Central Bank of Kenya rates has remained at 7.0% in since April 2020. Mr. Speaker, export as a share of GDP has steadily declined from around 12% in 2011, to 6% in the financial year 2020-2021. The current account balance has remained steady and around 5% since 2018, partly due to declining imports as a share of GDP. It is notable, Mr. Speaker, that exports of agriculture products and diaspora remittances continue to be the major source of foreign reserves. Mr. Speaker, the economic stimulus program, the ESP, in the third phase of response to adverse effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, the third phase of ESP is set to cost about 26.2 billion Kenya shillings. In this phase, Mr. Speaker, the government is expected to focus on key productive and service sector that cover agriculture, health, education, drought response, infrastructure, financial inclusion, energy, and environmental conservation. Mr. Speaker, some proposed ceiling include: 1, the proposed ceiling on agriculture, rural, and urban development sector for the financial year 2023 is Kenya shillings 63.9 billion, which represent a decrease of 15.6%, which compared to allocation of the current financial year, when compared to the allocation of the current financial year of 75.7 billion. The proposed health sector allocation has increased from 121.1 billion in the financial year 2021 to Kenya shillings 129.4 billion, representing an increase of 8.3%. The proposed allocation for the social protection, culture, and recreation sector for the year 2022-23 is Kenya shilling 72.9 billion, which represents 1% increase in allocation. The proposed ceiling for the environmental protection, water, and natural sector is Kenya shillings 110.7 billion, which represents 10% increase allocation from the current allocation of 100.6 billion. The proposed ceiling for the transport, public works, and housing sector in 110.7 billion, which represent 10% increase allocation from the current allocation of 100.6 billion. Mr. Speaker, the allocation to county government level in the financial year 2022-23 is proposed to be Kenya shillings 370 billion out of the total projected shareable revenue of 2.141.6 billion. This indicates zero growth from the allocation of the financial year 2021-2022 or the current financial year. It is important, Mr. Speaker, to note that with this proposal, the county equitable share of revenue as a percentage of ordinary revenue would decrease from 22% in the financial year 2017-2018 to 17%. It's very important we know the decrease, Mr. Speaker. In the year 2022-2023, that would be a decrease if we go by the proposal, Mr. Speaker. Further, from the medium-term projection provided, it is projected to decrease to 13% in the year 2024-2025. Mr. Speaker, like we will be commenting, then this defeats the purpose of why some of us were very keen in supporting the BBI. Further, Mr. Speaker, inflation currently stands at 5.8%. If this is factored in the proposed 370 billion, it follows that counties will be receiving far much less than what is allocated for 2021-2022. This would affect the level of service delivery as the cost of goods continue to rise, while resources allocated remain stagnant. Mr. Speaker, those are basic, that is common sense, Mr. Speaker, and one wonders why the people who are recommending that did not see it. Mr. Speaker, for the financial year 2022-2023, the National Treasury proposes an allocation of 370 billion, 37 billion as conditional allocation from the national government share of revenue raised nationally, and proceeds of external loans and grants from the development partner. Mr. Speaker, following the High Court ruling on Petition 252 of 2016 held that conditional and unconditional grant can be issued to the county level of government under Article 190 of the Constitution or through an agreement between the two levels of government. This Article 190 is yet to be actualized. Regrettably, counties have not received their share under conditional grants for the financial year 2021-2022, Mr. Speaker. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, we were very keen on the county government's grants bill. Mr. Speaker, the ordinary revenue rates each year should be shared between debt repayment, recurrent expenditure, and county allocation. It is notable that a larger percentage of ordinary revenue is taken up by debt repayment, reducing the shareable revenue. The interest payment as a percentage of ordinary revenue has increased from 24% in the financial year 2017-2018 to 30% in the proposed financial year 2022-2023. This means that any additional revenue raised by the government goes to servicing the debt. Mr. Speaker, the issue of pending bills. This is another animal, Mr. Speaker, that if we don't slay it, it will keep on haunting us for many, many years to come. In the counties, pending bills in the counties have been raising or increasing over the years. For instance, in the financial year 2018-2019, the total pending bill reported was Kenya shillings at 4.54 billion, while in the financial year 2020-21, the total reported pending bills was Kenya shillings 102.69 billion. Mr. Speaker, you can see the growth. The county that reported the highest outstanding pending bill is Nairobi City, with a total pending bill of 78.7 billion in the financial year 2019-2020, and Kenya shillings 54.32 billion in the financial year 2021. Pending bills are a key manifestation, Mr. Speaker, of weak internal control systems, overcommitment of budgets, and the performance of own source revenue, and the failure to adhere to approved work plans. County government's executive must arise and address these challenges. Mr. Speaker, as a Senate, I think that is, and as a committee, we'll be calling stakeholders to try and see how we can address that, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, medium-term debt management strategy. The 2022 medium-term debt management strategy aims at minimizing costs and risks of public debt through net financing mix of that 2% for external sources and 68% from domestic market. The nominal stock of public debts was Kenya shillings 7.7 billion as at the end of June 2021. This is equivalent to 68.1% of GDP and 86% of statutory debt ceiling of Kenya shillings 9 trillion. Mr. Speaker, as at the end of June 2021, the outstanding guaranteed debt to state enterprises amounted to Kenya shillings 157.2 billion. These enterprises include the Moribad Kenya Power, which has an outstanding debt of KenGen, or Kenya Electricity Generating Company, 26.5 billion, Kenya Ports Authority, that's 7.9 billion, and the Pride of Africa, Kenya Airways, 80.9 or 81 billion. Mr. Speaker, on the external debt market, the strategy plans to optimize concessional borrowing and reduce commercial borrowing. The midterm debt management of 2022 provides a strategy-supposed initiative to develop the domestic debt. This is a story we have had over the year. You remember when we presented the debt stock report, we could not be able to touch or feel some of the initiatives that the National Treasury have done in regard to that aspect, Mr. Speaker. Regarding debt sustainability analysis, the DSA, public debt sustainability is the ability of the country to service its debt obligations as they fall due without disrupting budget implementation. The risk of debt distress has increased from low in the previous years to moderate in 2018 and 2019, and further rising to high in 2020 and 2021. The National Treasury should consider debt restructuring as well as promoting initiatives such as increased exports to Rwanda debt vulnerability. Mr. Speaker, this House passed the PPP bill. That should also be another initiative that the National Treasury need to take on very seriously. Mr. Speaker, the committee made several observations, including one, the ordinary revenue projections for the year 2022-23 is Kenya shillings 2.141 billion, a growth of 19%, which is quite an overestimation, and unless there is a policy change, these projections may not be achieved. Many people think that it is a wish list, but it is also good to dream. That the fiscal deficit increases within the fiscal year when revenue targets are not achieved, and this leads to increased borrowing also in the targets approved in the BPS. That has continued year in, year out. The proposed allocation of counties to Kenya shillings 370 billion has not factored inflation, and therefore, in real terms, the allocation is lower than the allocation for the year 2021. Mr. Speaker, that year, the year we were talking about, the inflation is about 5.3%, so that has not been factored. Mr. Speaker, the committee recommends that the House that 2022 BPS and midterm debt management strategy be approved with several policy and financial recommendations as contained in the report. These recommendations include: one, the National Treasury should, one, adjust the inflation on the county equitable share and further ensure that the allocation to counties are not less than 35% of the most recent audited and approved accounts for the financial year, which is for the financial year 2017-2018, amounting to Kenya shillings 1.413 billion. Mr. Speaker, like I mentioned earlier, is that we don't need a referendum to pass allocation to the counties. And so as a committee, and we are seeking the concurrence of the House, we can now increase the revenue by about 125 by just picking that aspect of that 5% of the last audited accounts, Mr. Speaker. And one wonders, and a question I asked, and I kept on asking, it should not be a struggle, because assuming referendum pass or we pass the BBI, we will not be talking about anything less than that 5%, because that was a proposal that was in the BBI. So we
the county governments will remain as are where they were. This is not acceptable, Mr. Speaker. And I want to urge members of this House to defend the interests of the counties they represent. Whether you are elected or nominated, you are part of a delegation from your county to ensure that the interest of your county is not about which senator was elected, but about you, the senator in this House, that represents those interests. And the committee has recommended, Mr. Speaker, that we reject the figure of 370, as my able chair has pointed out, and we are recommending a figure that is commensurate with the growth that the Treasury itself has told us. That growth, Mr. Speaker, is not a figure from the Senate, it's a figure from the Minister for Finance. And based on that figure, Mr. Speaker, the committee recommends to this House that the allocation of revenue for the financial year that is now rolling out must move from 370 to 495 billion. That reflects the growth that the Treasury itself has told us. We probably should be asking for more, but we are only holding them to account on what they have brought to the Senate. And my chairman has said it very clearly. And for we senators, our interest is to ensure that devolution works, that resources follow functions. And the functions that are already with the county governments must be adequately resourced. Equally important, Mr. Speaker, in our recommendation is the continuing holding on resources for devolved functions. Huge sums of money are still held at the Ministry of Water and Irrigation. Huge sums of money are still being held at the Ministry of Health. Huge sums of money are still being held at the Ministry of Agriculture for functions that have been devolved. Agricultural fertilizer subsidies are now dead because the money that would help counties do the subsidies is held at the headquarters. We only, Mr. Speaker, need to inquire as a Senate, which functions do we devolve according to the Constitution and the law to the counties? And which ministries are therefore obligated under the Constitution to be responsible for policy formulation and not implementation of programs and projects that are devolved? And you'll find, Mr. Speaker, that the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Water and Sanitation and Irrigation would be receiving most minimal budget allocations. Yet, Mr. Speaker, they get a lion's share. Why do they do that? Because, Mr. Speaker, functions that are devolved are not being budgeted for and resourced at county levels. Instead, the money is left at the national level. The committee again recommends, Mr. Speaker, senators must be invited to ask themselves, how does a monopoly like Kenya Power be debt-ridden? How does a monopoly like Kenyan be debt-ridden? How can Kenya Power, that controls the distribution and supply of energy, electricity to Kenyans, Mr. Speaker, and dismember any supply when a citizen fails to pay for a single day, how can Kenya Power be heavily in debt, Mr. Speaker, to the extent where it is now getting the attention of the Treasury and everybody else? It is pure and simple mismanagement. And the reforms that have been put in place in reorganizing Kenya Power, Mr. Speaker, must go further and deeper, arrest the culprits and prosecute them, and bring Kenya Power to where it was. There is not a single member in this House, Mr. Speaker, who has not fallen victim of not only the mismanagement, but the frauds being committed by Kenya Power on its consumers, where they just decide and inflate bills to recover money that they have misappropriated so that wananchi can foot and underwrite fraud. This is not acceptable, Mr. Speaker, and this House must again take a very serious view on this. Kenya Airways, Mr. Speaker, has a choking 80 billion debt. Kenya themselves, Mr. Speaker, if this is what Kenya Airways is doing to our economy, do we still need an airline? And if we need an airline, do we need, Mr. Speaker, to own an airline that cannot generate revenue, an airline that has degenerated from the pride of Africa to the shame of Africa, Mr. Speaker. Do we really need this airline if this is what it's doing to the country? And I salute Parliament, Mr. Speaker, for the last 2 years, that both houses of Parliament resisted and rejected attempts to hand over our airports authorities to the airline that is bankrupt, so that the airline can survive on a falsehood and quicksand of money that it doesn't generate. So we need to keep asking these serious questions, that for how long will the Treasury be giving money to an airline whose only benefit to this country is unquantifiable pride? And that is all. There is nothing else we can talk about Kenya Airways, Mr. Speaker. Today, the small airlines run by entrepreneurial Kenyans at Wilson Airport, from here to Kisumu, you are paying 4,000 shillings one way, 8,000, 9,000 return. Kenya Airways is charging 25, 26, 29, 30,000 shillings. You go to Mombasa, same thing, Mr. Speaker. Why are they fleecing Kenyans and remaining in debt? And yet, the Treasury is still projecting that this is one of the public corporations that needs to be taken into account by public coffers. This is not acceptable, and this House should take a very serious view of this, because, Mr. Speaker, there are countries that don't have an airline, and their citizens travel at will. If it is not working, let's not bother about it. If it is working, let's hold on to it. And as it is, Mr. Speaker, Kenya Airways is no longer employing Kenyans in the manner we expected. It's no longer paying Kenyans in the manner we expected. It's no longer giving Kenyans the service in the manner we expected. And it is now time to urge the national government to rethink. If you want an airline to bear Kenya's name, give it. Condition whoever invests in it to call it Kenya Airways, but let it not drain our resources that we need for other avenues of development. Mr. Speaker, the debt, the public debt, this country is suffering under very heavy public debt. This House may remember, Mr. Speaker, when Minister Uhuru Yatani came to office, he appeared before this committee and talked financial inclusion, consumption, energy, consumption, environmental conservation, consumption. Where is the growth, Mr. Speaker? Where is the growth? Because we must compete with other economies. We keep on saying, Mr. Speaker, and the other day I was meeting the president of Korean community in Africa, and he was telling me, I am old enough to tell you that in the 60s, you guys were better than us. This is a fact we know. How come today the GDP of Korea is over $45 billion? We are still at less than $1 billion, $1,000, Mr. Speaker. Not 45 billion, $45 million. We are still at less than $1 million, $1,000. Kenyans, Mr. Speaker, must ask ourselves questions. Where did we take the wrong turn? President Uhuru's government has done a lot about infrastructure, and we salute this. But at what cost, Mr. Speaker? We must, Mr. Chairman, as a committee, also start interrogating the cost of public projects in this country. Because, Mr. Speaker, a good intention is being executed badly. We have very good, high-profile, prestigious infrastructure projects, but at what cost? These are questions we must ask ourselves, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if we do not control our appetite for borrowing, this country is going to choke. This country is going to run into problems. I am very sure, Mr. Speaker, that in rolling out this budget, the Treasury is still salivating for more and more borrowing from our benefactors, particularly the Chinese, who are very cruel in recovering their money, Mr. Speaker. You know what they have done to Sri Lanka, you know what they have done to Zambia, and you know what they are likely to do to us if we are not careful, Mr. Speaker. We should not put ourselves in a line, Mr. Speaker, as a country that has graduated from an HIPIC to a medium developing country, to be blackmailed and eventually foreclosed because of reckless borrowing. Parliament, Mr. Speaker, particularly the National Assembly, has failed this country because the Constitution is very clear. The national government cannot borrow money from anywhere without the approval of Parliament. And Parliament, this is limited to the National Assembly. Nobody comes to the Senate to seek authority to borrow. The authority is given by the National Assembly. And, Mr. Speaker, when you go to the National Assembly, their debates, Mr. Speaker, are jokes. Members there speak for 1 minute, they just stand up, Mr. Speaker, I support. Mr. Speaker, I support. If you ask them what we are supporting, they don't even tell, Mr. Speaker. And the country is busy borrowing and borrowing and borrowing. So this House must distinguish itself, Mr. Speaker, and go in the annals of history, that even if constitutionally we are not obligated to control the borrowing, the National Assembly is. In the future, when constitutional changes come and this House is properly restored as an upper house, people will read and say the senator for Laikipia said this on this date that helped the country. The senator for Marsabit stood firm and was counted. The senator from Kajiado stood firm and was counted, and everybody else. Mr. Speaker, this history nobody will erase from you. We must stand firm on this. Mr. Speaker, I want Senate to ask ourselves questions. If indeed, Mr. Speaker, we are choked by public debt, why are we rolling out a budget that keeps on ballooning and ballooning and ballooning? Why aren't we cutting our suit according to the cloth available? This is the question, Mr. Speaker. Because we are told we are moving now from 3.03 trillion budget to 3.309 trillion budget. Yet, Mr. Speaker, we also told in the same statement that now about 70% of our revenues collected is going to debt service. And the first charge on our public resources goes to debt service. What are we left with, Mr. Speaker? 30%. Now, 30%, we have a restless workforce that wants salary increment every day. 30%, Mr. Speaker, we have got to deal with issues of health. We have a pandemic in our midst. We have to, via some budgetary allocations, to deal with COVID-19. Mr. Speaker, with that 30%, we have got heavy recurrent expenditure in wasteful national and county governments. What am I saying, Mr. Speaker? That the government must take the dragon of corruption and slay it. President Uhuru is on record, Mr. Speaker, as saying we lose 2 billion Kenya shillings daily. That is not a statement from this Senate. That is not a statement from the Treasury. It's a statement from the Chief Executive of Kenya. And as a Senate, we have said, we will give you, Mr. President, an unqualified support to fight corruption, to lock up the corrupt, to seize assets of the corrupt, Mr. Speaker, and restore them to the people of Kenya. Like I've said before, Mr. Speaker, taking from the corrupt is an act of heroic restoration of people's assets and people's money. We need to deal with this, Mr. Speaker. Because, Mr. Speaker, if you look at this country, all the wealthiest people in this country are former or current public servants. Are they hardworking, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, may I request for a few more minutes?
How many minutes?
5, 10.
10, okay. Minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if you look at this country, the most opulent persons are civil servants, former, current civil servants. Are they harder working than ordinary Kenyans sitting in front of me here? Do people go to public offices to work for the people of Kenya, to work for themselves? These are big questions we have to ask, Mr. Speaker. And until and unless, Mr. Speaker, we instill respect for public property in this country, until and unless, Mr. Speaker, we instill respect for public resources, we will, Mr. Speaker, continue having these problems. Mr. Speaker, you and I come from a county where we see this happening. A person who didn't have a cent when he came to office now goes around displaying obscene wealth. Every funeral he goes, he says, when I finish talking to you as mourners, follow me and queue up for money. That is not his money. And this is happening in the full glare and full view of institutions of governance. I want, Mr. Speaker, this country to empower the offices of the DCI, the DPP, the judiciary, ESCC, Mr. Speaker, so that we can be able to fight corruption. I'm told, Mr. Speaker, even some of these offices have been infiltrated completely. The Auditor General rolls out reports every year, and every time you read, Mr. Speaker, and follow the stories of the Auditor General, it's like a crime story. It's like an Agatha Christie novel, where crime is there. Every single individual has an opportunity and a motive to commit that crime. We know them, we do nothing, Mr. Speaker. This country, Mr. Speaker, if we want to grow, and we have said this, I'm not saying anything new. The President has said it. We in the political arena have said it. These senators here have said it. My chairman here has been saying it, that it is not enough to engage in unhelpful rhetorics about the war against corruption. It is very important, Mr. Speaker, that we fight corruption. Because, Mr. Speaker, if we don't do this, you look at comparable jurisdictions, and I like citing a country called Cuba, a country that has done so much with so little, a country without resources. Cuba only produces sugar, and Cuba only have some little wells of oil. Talk about, you can't compare it with Venezuela or UAE or Saudi Arabia. But you go to Cuba, Mr. Speaker, they have got the best healthcare system in the world. Believe me or not, Mr. Speaker, you go to Cuba, education is free and available to every Cuban child from pre-unit to university, including postgraduate degrees, Mr. Speaker. It's available to them. Here, Mr. Speaker, we say we have free education, but when children go to school, education is free, bring uniform, bring books, bring a brick, bring tortoise, now they have got something called CBS. They are bringing everything to school, Mr. Speaker. I saw some children in the village handing for a tortoise to carry to school, Mr. Speaker, had to meet the requirement of CBC. Mr. Speaker, we have to change this, Mr. Speaker. We have to change this, Mr. Speaker. It is very, very sad that we are going the wrong way. I want the Minister Magoha, a good friend of ours, Mr. Speaker, not to fall into this trap of everybody who goes to the Minister of Education must appear to be reforming something. I asked them, you brought 844. We accepted it, and it was working. Why have we run away from it? Nobody's explaining to Kenyans, Mr. Speaker. And I thought when we wanted to move away from 844, Kenya, as the team leader in the East African community, was now going to move to primary education from 1 to 4, from 5, 6 to university, like Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, and Burundi are doing, so that we synchronize our education system with the region. Now we have a mongrel that nobody understands. Even if you ask the minister himself to explain to you what is CBC, he will fumble and fumble and fumble. The same way I saw my good friend Alice Wahome when she was asked, what is this bottom-up economics you are talking about? Mr. Speaker, she embarked on a misadventure that left her a laughing stock. It's about bottom turning up, until, Mr. Speaker, every Kenyan started laughing. You ask Professor Magoha, what is CBC? He can't tell you. Why did he? Because as a minister, he must be seen to reform something. This is not helping our country, Mr. Speaker, and this Senate must speak to this, that we need to be predictable. We need to be synchronized with the region. We need to work with our partners. Kenya is a material source of labor and manpower to our neighbors. Now you go to Tanzania, You went through 844. They accepted you, they employed you, you are a manager. Now, tomorrow, somebody else turns up. What is your education system like? CBC. What is CBC? I don't know. We are chasing tortoises to take to school, and that is CBC. These things must change. You senators, protect the devolution. And I want to urge you to agree with this report that there is no way the economy can grow by 9% and the allocation to the counties remains static. This you must reject. And I want my friend, the Moran from Narok, to reject this. Because if we have grown, we must all grow. We don't want to engage, Mr. Speaker, in a situation where, and I told the chair of CRA that she has been doing such a good job, now she's suffering from diminishing returns. Because, Mr. Speaker, you cannot say as the Commission of Revenue Allocation, your figures before you, that the economy has grown by 9%, and you append your signature that counties will get what they got last year, not even taking into account inflation. Senator Nderitu, inflation only is not taken into account. Economic growth is not taken into account. And yet you are told we have registered a growth of 9%. Stop being a rubber stamp as a Senate and rationalize issues, sit and talk, sit and engage, and convince the government. Because governments all over the world will always hold on to money. They will take your money, but they will never give it back to you. It is not unique to Kenya. But we must. Finally, Mr. Speaker, the levels of taxation in this country must also be addressed. My chair is one of the St. Mount Kenya tycoons, and I'm sure he suffers from excessive tax payment, Mr. Speaker. And taxes, Mr. Speaker, in this country, we must re-engineer our tax regime. You cannot believe, Mr. Speaker, that you earn 100 shillings, 30 shillings out of 100 goes to, what is it called? Pay as you earn. 16 shillings goes to VAT on everything you buy. Then you have taxes on fuel, whether you own a car or not. Every time you get into public transport, your money goes towards fuel taxes. In this country, Mr. Speaker, a liter of petrol, the cost that you pay, over 69 shillings of every liter of petrol is tax. How do you explain, my chairman, fuel coming from the Middle East through Mombasa, piped to Eldoret, collected by trucks to Rwanda up to Congo, Bunia, Butembo, Fujimai, and you drive to Congo and you buy petrol that has come through Kenya cheaper than you buy it here? How do you explain going to Uganda? For us, me and Speaker live close to the border, so when we have a minute, you can drive across to see relatives because of the colonial arbitrary boundaries. You drive to see your...
For us to defend our counties, we will end up just being reduced to really voting machines, a conveyor belt, and we will not play any role in terms of developing the economy of this nation. Mr. Speaker, in the budget policy statement, the issues which are raised, additionally, the Treasury was supposed to release about 38 billion to county governments. Yet we know very well that we had a court ruling that made it very clear that conditional grants should be sent differently to the counties. It was very clever for them initially to come up and say, we are going to give counties 370 billion, and this came out after the long fight over 11 votes to ensure that our counties do not lose money. But when we caught that action, we then ended up having to develop a legislation that will support conditional grants on how they can be sent to counties. Mr. Speaker, the National Assembly came up with a different framework on how that money should be sent to counties. Until today, Mr. Speaker, the conditional grants, which are mostly supposed to help our health functions, which are devolved, have never been dispersed back to the counties. The issue of the equalization fund is still another issue. That money is still not has not still benefited the people who were supposed to benefit. So if we come here and we don't pay attention to the text in the budget policy statement, what difference will we have with the Kenyan citizens who are out there who expect us to be able to criticize, to go through what is presented to us to protect their interests? Mr. Speaker, I am concerned, and I would wish to request my colleagues to take some time and actually read this budget policy statement before voting for it. We are talking about post-COVID period. I don't even know whether we should call it post-COVID because we are still going through the COVID. Omicron is still there. Mr. Speaker, in developed nations and any other country around the world, after a recession, because I don't know what else you'll consider this but a recession, government spends money, inject money into the economy so that you can be able to revive the economy. Now in this case, you are saying no, the same amount of money, 370 billion, is what we are going to keep, yet you are telling us that the economy has grown. You're also telling us that no, from today, I will borrow 4% of the GDP locally. What are you telling us? On the same case, Mr. Speaker, if you look at this being, and I'm going to read this. It's saying, going forward, the National Treasury is optimistic that the economy will turn around over the medium term with a projection growth of 6% in 2021, supported by the continued reopening of the service sector, recovery in manufacturing, and strong global demand. And then, which is very, very important, is that this BPS is prepared since the introduction of the Big Four agenda, and the universal healthcare is one of the Big Four agendas for the government. How will you ensure that we attain that universal healthcare, yet you're not increasing money that is supposed to go to the county governments? How will you ensure that we obtain that universal healthcare, yet you come up with a system that tends to claw back devolved functions from the devolved government to the national government? Mr. Speaker, in this budget policy statement, we are told that there will be about 50 healthcare facilities which are going to be built. We are not told how these 50, who will build these 50 healthcare facilities. Is it the national government? And what business will the national government be doing, carrying out a function which is a devolved function? Mr. Speaker, we saw the president going at night, opening clinics in Nairobi. How are they built? Who paid for them? Is it the county governments? Was that money allocated by Parliament for them to be able to do that? We need to stop this business of being a conveyor belt, and we'll look at critically the issues which are brought here, because we'll be judged harshly by history. Mr. Speaker, this budget policy statement to me is utopian and completely unattainable. We need to change. We cannot allow Treasury to borrow locally. And if we pass this budget policy statement the way it is today, then we will be killing SMEs. We will be telling them, you go to other countries and go borrow money because you cannot be given any money locally. We looked at this. I am a member of the Health Committee and a very active member. And some of the recommendations that we raised, Mr. Speaker, we raise them so that they can be able to ensure that we protect the devolved functions. Schedule 4 of the Constitution is quite clear on what is devolved, and health is devolved. We always talk about the principle of form follows functions, yet we don't go by it. When we devolve function, we follow them with the money. Some of the key recommendations that we came up with, which I want to reiterate, and I hope that my colleagues will look at them, is that government should look into borrowing externally, not locally. We are not going to stop you from borrowing because we have no control of what you do. I wish we did. I would have believed that we did. But because nowadays Parliament is just a conveyor belt, then we want to ensure that we can be able to stop you from doing it. We tell you, do not borrow locally, borrow externally, so that we can be able to save our economies here. Number 2, Mr. Speaker, the National Treasury and the Ministry of Health should develop a framework to allow for pending bills to be cleared as a first charge of account. Mr. Speaker, that is a principle in accounting, and I'm sure the majority whip will tell you that. If you have pending bill, it should form the first charge on your accounts. Our pending bills, Mr. Speaker, have grown tremendously. I think to a figure of about 120 billion. How are we going to ensure that we clear this? We are killing businesses. When we come up with a budget, let us not just build the language, the English. Let us demystify what it really means for us to be able to have a budget that can be able to help our economies grow. The other thing which is very important, Mr. Speaker, is that the Ministry of Health and the county government should act to ensure that the framework is developed to provide for the 5,500 health workers who are employed on contract under the UHC program. Because this budget policy statement is silent on that. It doesn't tell us what will happen. You are telling us you want to achieve the universal health care. You want to ensure that eventually you will be able to provide health care to every citizen in this country. But you are not telling us how you are going to protect the 5,500 workers who were employed on contract. Mr. Speaker, we've seen what has happened this year with anything to do with health. If you look at KEMSA as an example, the workers there who were on contract, their contract term expired, they were not renewed, and then after that, sometimes, even though the law is presumptive, in the sense that if a contract is not renewed, you become permanent and pensionable, those people are sent home. What country are we living in, Mr. Speaker? It is about time that we ask ourselves these tough questions. We talked about the issue of concurrence of bills, Mr. Speaker. Today, Mr. Speaker, I'm aware that there is a Huduma bill, which is in the National Assembly. And I'm not sure whether it is the National Assembly sought concurrence. Because the Court of Appeal overruled even the decision of the former Supreme Court. Now, the National Assembly can just come up with legislation, pass them, go to the President for assent. The Huduma bill, which, Mr. Speaker, we cannot allow it to just go to the President to be assented to when it is literally rendering the immigration services really another just department. You know, we need to be pragmatic. You need to be progressive. But with such kind of budget policy statement that looks at just really clawing back on devolution, there's no progressive there. What we are doing is that we are telling our Kenyans that, listen, you don't know nothing. What we are going to do is that we are going to just carry out any functions we want. The national government is the alpha and the omega, yet we talk about devolution. That is something that ought to come to an end, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there's also special funds which should be allocated to the establishment of cancer centers in Meru and Kakamega as proposed in the BPS. We need to look at the entire country and say, even though we cannot get equality, there's some form of equity that can be able to help us. So, Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, I will not be supporting this budget policy statement because of the reasons that I've given, and I want to summarize those reasons. One, I cannot support a budget policy statement that seeks to kill SMEs. That is proposing borrowing 4% of the Kenyan GDP locally. Go borrow elsewhere. That is one, Mr. Speaker. Number two, this issue of concurrence of bills, Mr. Speaker, is very, very important. Because during the budget making process, which is where we are beginning now, and I hope that, and I want to borrow the words of my colleague Wetangula, that all 47 elected senators, including the ones who are not elected, who form part of the delegations, should actually be here to go through this budget making process. Should pay attention to what is brought to this house so that we can be able to save our people. I want to ensure that the people of Narok, Mr. Speaker, get the services they need in healthcare, the hospitals which are built there, but I also want the county government of Narok to play a role, not just to be a bystander. Today, there's a lot of money that has not been sent to county governments, and we are sitting here happy, coming in to pass a budget policy statement, yet we cannot ask questions. What will happen with the money, the conditional grants that have not been sent to the counties? This fight between the National Assembly and the Senate should come to an end, Mr. Speaker. When we came up with a bill on conditional grants, and the National Assembly comes up with a framework, what does that tell us? two elephants are fighting, who will suffer the grass? So the people in the counties who are supposed to be benefiting from the conditional grants will not benefit from them unless we end this thing. And now we are going into the next financial year, yet services which are supposed to be rendered in the last financial year have not been rendered, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is why on an annual basis, the National Assembly will come up with a supplementary budget on every given time. I think we have come of age, Mr. Speaker, as a nation with very intelligent and educated leaders. We can be able to develop budgets that do not require supplementary at every given time to fit interest. Number three, Mr. Speaker, I want to reiterate on this issue of concurrence. I'm glad that at least as a Senate, we have an opportunity to go through this budget policy statement. But in terms of concurrence of bills, I always support judiciary. But in this case, the decision which was rendered by the Court of Appeal, really overruling even the decision of the previous Supreme Court in terms of concurrence will kill this parliament. I'm aware, and I want to reiterate that there is a Huduma bill. And that Huduma bill is very dangerous, Mr. Speaker. It is extremely dangerous. Because what will happen is that it will convert all immigration officers into NIMs. How dare you say that a passport is a primary document? It is not a primary document. We know that what is a primary document is a national ID and the birth certificate. But now when you come in and you add a passport, then it means that although it's a primary document, it is okay for it to keep on changing numbers. Mr. Speaker, sir, I know in your time of traveling, and you've traveled all over the world, you probably exhausted about 3 or 4 passports. You have not maintained the same number. I think we need to go to a time when we can be able to really look at everything. And the reason why I'm raising that issue of the Duma bill, Mr. Speaker, is because it will affect the budget. It will be part of this budget. And there's a lot of money there. So with all this money, which the National Treasury is saying we are going to raise, you are going to raise a lot of money, pay debts, but kill counties. I'm here to defend devolution, and this is why I will not be supporting this budget policy statement, because I cannot support a policy that kills small businesses. We want to be progressive. We do not want a situation whereby everything in this country is all about the Benjamins, it's all about a few people, the bourgeoisies. What about the small people that we talk about? The only time we'll be able to attain universal health care is if we are open enough, ensure that when we are building hospitals, it is not controlled by the Ministry of Health here. That function is devolved back to the county governments. Allow the county governments to be able to build those hospitals, fund them. I want the Chair of Finance to go and tell Treasury to find a framework to release the conditional grants which they are holding, even if Parliament has been unable to come up with a bill. Because in the decision of the court, it said, come up with a process of how you send that money. Let us follow the law. The law was designed to be able to help us remain in the course. No one is above the law in this country. With those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I reject it completely.
Thank you. Senator Faria.
Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I beg to support the budget policy statement. Mr. Speaker, but I have a couple of concerns and some recommendations as well. Mr. Speaker, in terms of revenue targets, we have, in this House, we've dealt with 5 budgets. And Mr. Speaker, in all the 5 budget cycles, we have never met the revenue targets, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, my question is, why do we always get it wrong, Mr. Speaker? Because if, when where I worked before and I've done a lot of budgets, Mr. Speaker, the history informs the future of budgets. And of course you stretch yourself a little bit so that you're not lazy in terms of achieving your targets, but at the same time, you should not always get it wrong. And when you're also budgeting for the same revenue, you should have some conservatives that takes care of the excesses that you always project, that is never my. The problem I have with having excessive budget projection is that, revenues are matched with expenditure. And therefore, when you have a very highly over projected revenue, it means you'll also have a very highly over projected expenditure. And Mr. Speaker, that also is part of the reason why probably part of the debt comes about. So, Mr. Speaker, as we budget, we need to be sensitive about that. Mr. Speaker, from this statement, I see that agriculture and source of diaspora funds have continued funding our economy. Mr. Speaker, when you realize that some of the sectors are the ones that increase your output and increase the revenue that is generated by this country and increases the GDP of this country, then I think we need more investment in those sectors. And as you will see, I will continue to explain that some of the sectors got less money this time, while there has been a decrease. In terms of, like if you check, Mr. Speaker, the proposed ceiling for agriculture, rural and urban development sectors have decreased by 15.6%, Mr. Speaker. My only hope is that decrease from the national government has gone to counties. If it hasn't gone to counties, what that means is that the sector that generates more revenue gets less allocation in terms of the budget, then we are likely to generate less, and we are likely to not meet our target for revenue generation. And we need to be very, very careful on how we handle that, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, of course, as you realize, we are living in a very, very hard times because of the COVID-related problems. Our revenues are likely to be, with Omicron and all these other problems that are upcoming, I hope we will not lock down this economy. Because from what I have seen, we have locked the whole world for for almost 18 months, but still diseases keep on increasing from a country to another country. It is high time we evaluated, and I also urge Kenyans to take more vaccines, because that will also enable us to have a more healthier nation that is more productive, that supports the growth of this economy, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in terms of the county allocation as by the PPS, as per the PPS, proportional increase to the revenue in terms of the allocation of revenue to the counties has decreased from 22% in the financial year 2017-2018 to 17% in the financial year 2022-2023, despite the fact that due to the handshake agreement, when the revenue stalemate came, there was an increase of 50 billion to the kitty of the counties. Still, we are underperforming by a whole 5%. So, Mr. Speaker, I think that is not acceptable, and we should, the revenue, if we were able to generate more money, counties should get more money, Mr. Speaker. Then the other issue is around, Mr. Speaker, pending bills, which has increased to 102.69 billion, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I always speak about pending bills because pending bills have very significant impact on how our economy grows, in how the businesses grow, and in how the GDP of this country grows. Mr. Speaker, if you owe counties owe more money to people, if national governments owe money to people, their ability not only to invest is impacted, but also they cannot finance their debt. And Mr. Speaker, that will result in many small business or mid-term, the smaller and the medium-sized businesses to fall. Mr. Speaker, the more we have businesses falling, the more we have unemployment, the more we will have revenue shortfall, the more we will have investors not interested in this country in terms of investment, and the more we will become uncompetitive compared to people in the other, our counterpart in this region. Mr. Speaker, and then the other issue is around the PPS proposing that the county should be given 370 billion. Mr. Speaker, if you do not factor in inflation, what that means is the money that the counties are disposed to spend will be less than what they had last year by the percentage of inflation. So, Mr. Speaker, this House should not accept the same amount, not now, not in the future, because inflation, always affect our ability to spend. So I am glad that I am also a member of the Finance Committee. I am happy that we are proposing 35% of the revenue of the last audited account, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the other issue I wanted to comment about is the commitment fees that we always have. My question is, in terms of money borrowed but not utilized, if you have no target for that money, why borrow? Because borrowing is costly, and if the amount of the percentage, not only do you have two things. Number one, the commitment fee charge. And
Coalition blocks, Honorable Speaker. And even in those schools, some of them, Honorable Speaker, they have special needs children, but they're just encaged in a room and there's no infrastructure for them, Honorable Speaker. We must be alive to the fact that every Kenyan matters. And every Kenyan, whether a PWD, whether you come from a marginalized community, whether you come from a poor family, you must get your basic rights as enshrined in Article 43 of this Constitution, Honorable Speaker. We are talking about matters water. Honorable Speaker, I want to be very candid on the floor of this House, that there are some places, there are some rural places that do not have water at all, Honorable Speaker. And imagine the importance of water, Honorable Speaker. Without water, you cannot live. You cannot wash your clothes. You cannot prepare food for children. Water is life, Honorable Speaker. But it is unfortunate and it is painful that there are some counties that don't have water, Honorable Speaker. Even in Lugari, where I come from, Honorable Speaker, boreholes have not been sunk, Honorable Speaker. It is the honors of this Senate to ensure that boreholes are sunk in every county, Honorable Speaker, because it is a social economic right that is enshrined in the Constitution, Article 43. It is also a right enshrined in Article 43 that all Kenyans must have the highest attainable standards of health, Honorable Speaker. And it is unfortunate, Honorable Speaker, sometimes women go to give birth, Honorable Speaker, and when they give birth, Honorable Speaker, there's no one to help them. The facilities are not there, Honorable Speaker. And I want to say, Honorable Speaker, county governments must ensure, when it comes to health also, they train trainers of trainers who will go mashinani and support women, Honorable Speaker. The life of women in mashinani matters. The life of children in mashinani matters, Honorable Speaker. Will not rest until services reach wananchi, Honorable Speaker. And we will also not play the ostrich, Honorable Speaker. When something goes wrong mashinani, we should bring it on the floor of this House. And not only bring it, Honorable Speaker, we must act, Honorable Speaker. Because if we just bring issues on the floor of this House and we are not acting, then we are just a toothless bulldog. We should not be the case, Honorable Speaker, because we are an upper house, Honorable Speaker. As an upper house, I want to support this statement that there is need for more money to be taken mashinani, and even what the President said about 35%, it should be enshrined in law as the President stated during the presidential speech, Honorable Speaker. He was not joking, he was very serious, that there are three issues that need to be factored in. The issue of gender, the issue of 35% President, Honorable Speaker. And also the issue of ensuring that the cake by Kenyans is enjoyed by everyone else, Honorable Speaker, because this is our country. We have no other country to go to, Honorable Speaker. We must ensure that we safeguard our rights. We must ensure we safeguard wananchi. We must ensure we deliver to Kenyans, Honorable Speaker. And that is why we are being paid, Honorable Speaker. I don't want to see a situation where I'm being paid and not delivering services to Kenyans, Honorable Speaker. The people of Lugari must know. Senator Msuruve is here to represent them. And I will not rest, Honorable Speaker. We must defend this report, and we must defend that more money should be taken mashinani, Honorable Speaker, because that is what we are mandated to do. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity. I support.
Thank you. Senator, Mary Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for also giving me a chance to add my voice on this motion on the adoption of the report on finance and budget on the budget policy statement. Mr. Speaker, I wish to note the following issues on the budget policy statement. Mr. Speaker, being a member of the Health Committee, I noticed that there is no budget that has been allocated for the implementation of the NHIF bill that we have just passed as a House. This bill was to bring some smile on the faces of Kenyans in terms of health care services. But without a budget for the implementations of these reforms, then I think the Ministry of Treasury is just taking Kenyans back to where we were, because there are no facilities, health facilities that will be built in our counties. There is no budget for recruitment of more healthcare service providers. And we know it has been a very big problem. There is no budget for expansion of the capacity of our KMTC to train middle-level health care workers. And therefore, the implementation of these important NHIF reforms will just be there in terms of a white and black. But there is no budget for implementation. Another issue that we saw as a committee on health is that there is no also information on the 50 new level 3 hospitals that are going to be built across the counties. This, Mr. Speaker, sir, seem to marginalize more of our counties. We know many of our counties do not have level 3 health facilities, hospitals within the counties. And with an indication that there is an allocation, a budget allocation for new level 3 hospitals, which are not specifically being targeted to go to marginalized counties, those counties that have not been having these facilities, then this budget policy statement seem to again create more marginalization for our counties. Mr. Speaker, the issue of the Ministry of Education also, there is very little budget in terms of recruitment of more teachers. And we know at the moment, because of the 100% transition rate, our schools are densely populated. And without teachers to handle this population in our public primary and secondary schools, then it means parents are going to pay more for employment of PTA teachers. It means parents are also going to chip in terms of construction of classrooms, construction of laboratories, constructions of abolition blocks, constructions of dining halls for their students. And this means then the issue of saying education is free it will not be the case. Then we shall be paying for more in terms of our secondary school and our primary school school fee. There is also no clarity in the budget policy statement. There is no clarity in terms of capitation for our universities. Many of our universities are already, so that is going to our higher education institutions. Mr. Speaker, the issue of also expansion of our research institutions. Already we have been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. We need to also help our research institutions to be able to grow to a level where they can also study the trends of the pandemic, and also they can be able to help Kenyans in terms of addressing this situation of COVID-19. Mr. Speaker, sir, the issue of also pending bills. We know today, as we are speaking, many of our counties owe so many businessmen and businesswomen and our youth a lot of money in terms of services they've already delivered to the counties. I wish the Ministry of Treasury could have stated how they will allocate this money for pending bills, both for the national government and for the county government. The issue of pending bills is killing our business, our business sector in terms of capital, where our business people are not able to provide services again because of the pending bills. Mr. Speaker, the issue of also an increase budget to our county government in terms of agriculture and also livestock. If we have to be secured as a country, we have to invest in food. And that has been one of our four agenda, food security. But without a budget going for agricultural inputs, support for our farmers, support for our livestock keepers, in terms of incentives, in terms of subsidies for the inputs they will need, then it means the Ministry of Agriculture. It means the Ministry of Agriculture is not going to improve food production in this country, then leaving Kenyans to import food. An importation of food, that will definitely means an increase in prices of foods. Mr. Speaker, the issue of water. There is no much increment in terms of the budget going to counties for the development of water infrastructure. Again, Mr. Speaker, many of our young urban growing areas in this country lack water and sanitation sewerage projects. And again, there is no much allocation for those facilities. Mr. Speaker, I think the House needed to note these concerns, and the committee has really done good work just for highlighting our concern as the House, but I think the House should stand firm on these issues that are affecting many of our counties. I also agree with other speakers that when we support the growth of counties, we shall have growth, supported the growth of the country as a whole. And therefore, I'm very, very reluctant in supporting this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Aaron Cheriot.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this chance to join the rest of my colleagues in giving my views on the 2022-2023 BPS report by a committee I'm proud to be a member of, a committee on budget and finance, a committee that plays a very crucial role in terms of securing our position as a Senate, in fulfilling our key objectives and reason for existence as a House, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this year, unlike the previous years, we have considered this report quite early for obvious reasons, that next year is an election year, and therefore, unlike in previous years where we normally do this around February, we are forced to cut short our Christmas break. Ideally, many of us, especially the young people like Ledama and myself, this should be time that we should be spending with our young children, but duty calls, and here we are. I personally believe, perhaps looking through all the list of business that you're supposed to transact as a House, this is the only one that is worth breaking a Christmas holiday for, because it's a very important national duty. It gives direction. The importance of BPS, Mr. Speaker, as has been mentioned by colleagues who have spoken ahead of me, is that it lays the strategic vision for the country in terms of budgeting and lays the walls upon which all the rest of expenditures and income are supposed to fall within. If you do not pass a proper BPS, Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, then you don't have a budget, because it's upon the implementation of what has been set out in the reports of both houses of parliament, Mr. Speaker, that the Treasury goes ahead to prepare a budget and submits it to the National Assembly for approval. However, Mr. Speaker, it is worth noting that over the years, the report of a Senate Budget and Finance Committee has continuously been ignored by the National Treasury. And I can reflect as far back as from 2013, when this House came into existence, that each year we give very salient recommendations about how our views, because we are equally leaders, just like our colleagues in the National Assembly, and perhaps even with a better global view, because many of the times when you interact with members of the National Assembly, their views are generally tilted towards appreciation of the work done by the national government, and very little of the important role that devolution plays in our country, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, on many occasions, you'll find that there'll be a clash of vision and purpose and planning in terms of what the direction the country needs to take, Mr. Speaker. It's important because this report has gone to make a very serious recommendation. You know, over the years, we've become a bit more intelligent in how we handle the work. It's a little bit of what Chinua Achebe told us, that when the birds knew how to fly without perching, then the hunters also had to learn how to shoot without missing. I guess that is what our chairman, our very able chairman, Senator Kibiru, is leading us to do. That because National Treasury continues to ignore the recommendations of the Senate, then we may as well not agree with them from the very onset. And that is what is being, actually the crux of the matter in this report is that we are varying their recommendation of the amount of money that they want to give to counties at 370, which is a stagnation of what was done the previous year. And we were all in this house. We remember very well the battle that we took, the tears that were shed in this house for us to get the county allocation to 370 billion. It's an insult to the intelligence of this house, to the purpose, to all the 10 plus weeks that we spent in this house haggling to push that figure to 370. Therefore, I want to plead with my colleagues that let us make a commitment today that once we pass this report, there is no turning back. If it means that we stick our necks out until it gets to the next administration actually that will come in August. In any case, we have passed Kara in the last, I think it was a 2018 financial year, in the month of August, or was it even September? So there'll be no emergency. We must stick to our guns and maintain the position of this BPS, that actually the fair figure to give to our counties is in excess of 500 billion Kenya shillings. Because if you are maintaining that if this budget is growing by 9.2%, then the budget of the counties as well should grow by a figure almost equal. Actually, this is not a figure that as a committee of budget and finance we just plugged out of the blues. It is actually empirically achieved, because we just did an extrapolation and said, okay, you take into consideration inflation, the growth of revenue, and the growth of the overall size of the budget. Because our duty under Article 96 of the Constitution of Kenya is to protect the interest of the counties and their government. How can we say as a House, Mr. Speaker, that we are protecting the interest of counties if we are not sticking firm and picking out obvious errors such as what is being proposed in this budget policy statement? When Ukuri Yatan appeared before us, the position of the Budget and Finance Committee was straight and clear to him that, Mr. Minister, this is nonsense. This one cannot be accepted. Because if you are growing the size of the national overall budget, then the size of funds and resources that are going to counties must equally grow. Anything short of that was completely unacceptable to us. The only reason, and this was pointed out to him and it's mentioned in the report, that we will have maintained 370 billion going to counties is if, in follow-up to our recommendation on our report as a House on our debt management strategy as a country, is if we had cut down on our fiscal deficit. And now that they are not willing to listen, actually if you read through this budget, the fiscal deficit actually moves by a whooping 891 billion Kenya shillings. It takes us actually close to the end of close to the ceiling, the budget, the debt ceiling that we proposed before this House. In fact, and there is reason to strongly believe so, that many keen followers of budget making process in this country are actually asking us that if you pass this BPS in the current form and state, won't you actually by a reverse process be raising the debt ceiling without revealing to the particular country, to the citizens of a country? Therefore, we need to be cautious about the work that you are doing, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you know, the reason why we speak with a lot of concern is that generally there is an agreed thinking across the breadth and space of the Republic of Kenya that as a country things have gone wrong. Yet unfortunately, we are so obsessed with all the things that don't matter about our politics, who will be the next president, how will they achieve, how can we change the other, but not focusing on the things that matter. Mr. Speaker, we have just returned, many of us, those of us that participated in the just concluded East African Parliamentary Games. And something so curious, something actually struck my curiosity at the Namanga border. And I asked one police officer, or actually revenue officer, who was there, and they mentioned and informed me that actually the people who needs to be concerned is you, the leaders. If you come in from the Tanzanian side, you will find hundreds and hundreds of trucks that are bringing in goods into the Republic of Kenya. Yet on the side of Kenya, there is absolutely nothing. That officer actually informed me that, Senator, what you need to know is that there is only one scanner in this one border post. the scanner of that belongs to the Kenyan government inspecting goods that are coming in from Tanzania. There is nothing on the Kenyan side, because ideally the trucks that are going to Tanzania are going back empty. So we might be priding ourselves at all, we are the superpower of the region, we are still strong, our economy is bigger, reading all those information, the data that is sent from World Bank, thinking, oh, so long as we still have $100 billion worth of GDP, while the closest is Tanzania at 60-something, we are still a superpower. But up to when, Mr. Speaker? All evidence indicates that actually all the rest of the East African community countries are catching up with us. They are doing actually the trade balance for the last 2 years between us and a country like Tanzania has actually tilted in favor of Tanzania. That for the first time since independence, Tanzanians are actually selling more goods to us than we are selling to them as a country. What does it point out to, Mr. Speaker? It points out that there is something fundamentally wrong with how we are managing our economy. And if you read through this BPS, Mr. Speaker, you can clearly see that this is already a rigged document that is pointing out to a budget that is made to benefit only a few well-placed sharks and not the ordinary citizens, Mr. Speaker. If we do not do our business, and I'll give you a practical example. Just look at the proposal. You know already that in this house, Mr. Speaker, we have unconcluded business on the leased medical equipment, where we continue to pay billions of Kenya shillings, you know, for facilities that are lying, Mr. Speaker. And this is an indictment to each and every one of us, the 67 of us who are in this house.
Order, member.
The fact that...
Order. Senator Aaron Cheriot, you have 11 more minutes when the motion comes up next for debate. Honorable Senators, it is now 12:30, time to adjourn the House. The Senate therefore stands adjourned until today, Tuesday, 21st December 2022 at 2:30 p.m.
What's a